You start doing your thing. I did not like how that last one went. Generally or specifically, because how the game is structured for the sake of being a video game disrupts a lot of what made her work. But also just didn't like how that worked out for me. The main concerns I'm trying to address: one, I have that limited window of I have to be the one that has the skills or I lose access. But I get a rogue not too far into the game, so I don't necessarily need to be the party rogue. Having the rogue skills right away when no one else can do the job, sure, but generally that doesn't need to be my job. But that's where the other concern comes in, and part of why my preference for spontaneous casters also overlaps, which suggests Bard, because of second best for skills while being charisma based. Because with games like this, not necessarily specifically D&D, but like Dragon Age Origins, even KOTOR, you have different characters with different skill sets, and under most, but importantly, not all circumstances, if you've got the person who's good at it with you, they can do the thing, and the main character doesn't have to. But in every variation of the diverse party type of game that I've played, there have always been some circumstances where if you didn't have it, you can't do it. And with at least some of the talking skills, I expect that the main character is going to need to. And partially because I don't know how long it takes for me to get someone who has that as a viable shtick. And the rogue, while they would get the skills, the rogue is a tiefling. They're a thiefling. Let's be honest. The tieflings have a penalty to charisma, so they're not capable of being quite as good at it as someone who's not penalized racially for that. So building someone with a penalty towards being that person, there's still places where I suspect the main character is going to have to be the one with those skills. And once I start proper, I can test some of that, but I don't want to have to redo anything once I've gotten to that point. Because you get access to a merchant in the intro portion of the game. So I could see if main character has this much total in appraise versus other temporary party member has less, and do the numbers change between them? I suspect yes. Based on whoever's in front and having that conversation. But I'm not sure. But if I want to cover my own ass, it means the character I build needs to be the talky one. So being a rogue for the additional skills, and especially those starting skills actually being class skills, or a bard because they get the talky bits, and almost as good, but not quite the same for the total number of skill points. Now, if the potential for being penalized didn't further complicate how the multi-classing works, taking that first level as rogue, specifically for the additional skill points right at the start, and having those skills that I need access to be class skills, so I don't have to worry about waiting until second level to take them. And then going from there as bard. Or I suppose I could actually save and then load to see how that would pan out. That's the problem there. But you have all the stat bonuses that I want. I don't want the level adjustment, but starting with something that actually leans into the stuff that matters for me. But both of the ones that get the bonuses I want have incorrect favored classes on top of the penalties. All the elves have fucking wizard, which I do not want. I don't want human bullshit, but the any and this are both helpful. Well, this is still a test, so... This, plus having the broader set of those, are both why you do this one first. Get all the extra stuff first. Maybe make the first 2 levels, especially if I don't have a penalty there. There. But some of this is more of a, I would really like to have the table that's in the book that breaks down when certain bonuses come in to know how best to do that, but there isn't necessarily a reason why I couldn't just be a rogue, but the upside of bard really is that they're a spontaneous caster who's doing arcane, but also gets healing. I don't necessarily want to be a favored soul. bards get more skill stuff. But the simplest solution to both of my concerns is this. Bards. Non-lawful. Guess we can wing it with that. Don't need one of those. I'm not paying extra, so this is as good as we can get. But yeah. This is going to be based on the person in front who actually talks to them. Just like all the other talking skills. So, my concern is that me, well, for some situations, especially early ones, I'm going to be the only one available. But in other situations, it's going to be me because that's just the way it's going to be. Open and disable. I do want points in these. Some of them aren't as necessary as others. Anything that doesn't require training, you technically don't need to put points into it all to get to roll. That I do. If I'm a rogue, the temporary one I get to be able to do that otherwise is less necessary, or is unnecessary. I won't. I do still want that. I do still like the idea of you. What would I get need to have a base attack bonus to get access to some of the other stuff I would benefit from. I'll just take you. It's fine. None. Take a second level in you, I get evasion, which is worth it. I'm not going to have enough points to actually distribute across everything I want. I don't know how much I'm going to use that. I might offload that specifically onto the other one, so I can focus on other stuff. Because if I have to do all the talking, that ends up meaning a bunch of my points are spoken for. I will get that second. If I were a human, I would get to second level before I would have to deal with those locked and, I think, trapped things. So, putting the points there for those, sure. I guess I'll start this one by actually save. Um, but if I want to branch this off in another direction, I can go back to that instead of doing the beginning from scratch again. But after that point, the talking, those finesse. Maybe. Or I could go for dodge and mobility first. More skills, better at talking, better AC, and ability with my stuff. Having some of that. Oh, actually, because it's not like I won't have uses for it. Get you up a little. For some things, having more people be able to do it passively, let alone actively, is a good idea. There you are. Well, the talkie skills are opposed skill checks, so the DC of those will just keep going up. A lot of things do that. So, I don't know how many circumstances I'd actually have a use for that, but even with rogues having as many skill points as they get, there's always more places to spend them than points to spend. Without cheating, anyway. I mean, ideally, that won't come up, but it's unrealistic. Oh, right. I was trying to remember what was included in that, and then forgot that I was trying to remember what was included in that. is also usually not something you want to use on people that you want to have friendly relations with later. So, I don't know if and when I would use those. But for the sake of having all the options available to me, I'm going to keep putting points there anyway. That is not necessarily the order I would want to have those in. I would want to be making use of that for longer. But I don't have to get it right. I don't have to get it perfect while I'm doing this. Okay. I could do that. Oh. I'm not proficient in a longbow as a human rogue. That's why it's not on the list. Should have probably taken that one first. But it's fine. I'm actually not sure what the best order to take things in is. I'm more seeing how much of it I'm gonna get, and then can reverse engineer the best way to time it. definitely not the best order to take all of those feats in. But that's okay. I got the second one of those class feats at 16, so even with the level adjustment, I'd be able to get 2 of them in the testing. I don't actually know how relatively easy or difficult it is to level in the game, but from what I remember, it's fairly linear and it doesn't really give you places where you can grind for more. It's more of a you get what you get, and some choices will give you more opportunities to maybe fight things or people, but not to just go run around and level as much as you want. But again, I only got so far, so I don't actually know how readily I would be able to make more experience to make more levels. I mean, rogues are always useful, and again, even with all those points to spend, the other rogue can focus on the skills that I'm not putting points into, and focus on the stuff where overlap would be helpful, all the detecting, and not worry about all the talking skills. So, but would I like to have some spontaneous healing from the bard? Even though I'd have to sacrifice some more of the skill points. And the functionality of rogue, because, you know, it's not like sneak attacks, if you're any good at sneaking, especially, aren't useful. And most of... I don't know how much of the bard stuff I would actually use. But I can poke through that again with actually paying attention to it, which I wasn't really before. I was doing some bard to lean into something that was not at all bard-like before, so looking at that and actually paying attention to how much of that I might actually use isn't a bad idea, because I like the idea of some of them, and I don't know how much of this, I don't know how much is actually covered by some. I like the idea of some of the stuff I'm readily aware of, which is maybe not good enough, but this particular experiment got where it did, and yeah, I would definitely have to plan out the ordering of the feats in a more helpful way. Those were... that's fine. That's what that's part of the point of the testing, is figuring out the shit I actually want to do and in what order that would make sense to do. Good enough.